It's Thursday night. You know what that means. It's time for Magic and Martinis. Please welcome your host, Scott Wells.
I love it. I love it. So glad to have each and every one of you here, especially always John Custer. First one in the room, always every week from all the way from Michigan. Thank you, John. Cheers to you over there. I'm going to drink a toast to you, sir. A good martini with just a spritz from my little spritzer of some vermouth. We are going to have just a lot of fun here this evening with a lot of wonderful guests. It's going to be wonderful for each of you also because you get to join in just as Jim has done here from Ohio. Oh, hi. So thank you, Jim, for coming in then as well. Cheers to you and cheers to everybody else who is joining us as we kind of get ready. And you know who our guests are going to be here then this evening. And so again, if you have some questions, feel free to post these over here on the side then as well. But each of these guys has some interesting backgrounds, some unique stories that you may or may not know about that we're going to be discussing throughout this evening over here. Just a quick update, by the way. I just got a text from Chris Randall. I've been working with his lecture tour, and he just notified me that he had to go into the hospital. Had to cancel tonight's lecture because he said, I'm checking in the hospital. And I texted him back, said, what's going on? What's the matter? I don't know. So just want you to know, so your thoughts and prayers will be with him. Hopefully it's nothing overly serious or wasn't an accident or something, but anyhow, he's out in Vegas, and so that's an issue then with him. You notice my T-shirt then tonight, Magic Island from Houston. For anyone who might be asking the question later, I'm sure as others come on, you might want to know, hey, what's up with the Magic Island? You now open, you got a T-shirt? No, this was back from the 80s. You can tell the way this fits. For some reason, it has shrunk over the years, just staying in a drawer. I don't know how, but it just doesn't fit the way that it used to from back in the 80s. So that's kind of weird. I don't know why. Again, my sweet friend over there, sweet friend, Harriet, thank you for joining us there again. Fantastic. By the way, I was just talking with Jarrett. He was saying the Gay Blackstone. He was just talking with her, and she said hello. And then Steve Mills up there from Texas. Always good to have you in there, my friend. And Jeffrey over there from another. I got a lot of people from Michigan, from the American Museum of Magic. Thanks again for being over here. PJ, I know you're recovering right now. Yeah, you like the vintage tee. Yeah, it certainly is a vintage T-shirt for sure. And I know you're recovering a little bit from therapy with after you had the leg ankle breakage and everything. But I hope you're doing well and can stick around here with us. All right, I'm going to start to bring in our first guest over here so we can kind of get things kicked off because again we've got a pretty full evening. Let me see if I can find the right one. So as I like to do from week to week, this being our 40th week of doing this, I like to show a video rather than me trying to explain what the resumes of these guests that I have, because the video usually tell you a lot more than I could. So you kind of get to a little bit more of a feel about who these guys are and gals are who I have on from week to week. So here will be our first guest. Please welcome.
That is amazing, Nathan Coe Marsh, everybody. That is really amazing. I just want to go, no.
got a really cool guest for you now.
One of the stars from the Penn Teller TV series.
Now, he has performed all over this world.
He's amazed crowds with mind-blowing stunts.
So dynamic.
He's groundbreaking.
I don't know how you did that.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Nathan Coe Marsh.
And that's exactly what I say. Welcome, Nathan Coe Marsh. Hey there, Nathan. How are you, my friend?
Doing great, Scott. Hello from Orlando, Florida. Good to see you, sir.
Home of Mickey Mouse and friends.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You know us for our theme parks, the worlds of imagination, wonder, $17 soda, and chafed inner thighs. So, absolutely.
Shaved inner thighs. What do you got to drink there tonight? What you got?
We got a classical gin and tonic.
Oh, cheers to you. Thank you, Nathan. I appreciate you being on over here. A couple other people have jumped in over here. Certainly Jim Cox, another one of the fellows who likes to drink a martini with me when we get together at the conventions. And eventually we'll get back together then, Jim. Love you, man. And your son, Dave. I'm going to have I had Dave on, I think, a while back then, too. He's a very clever guy, his Jim's son. And Roger Johnson from here in Houston, across town. Hey there, the great Raj. He was on a few weeks ago as well. And I think, and I know I had Jeffrey on there, and so Jeff says hello to you, Nathan. So
Good to see you, sir.
So let's get ready and bring on the next couple of guys who join us then from Lost Wages. Here. And there they are, Jarrett and Raja. Hey, guys.
Hey, is that us? That's us. That was pretty good. We haven't done that in a year.
Who's done anything much in a year, you know?
Oh, again.
Right. Do you know how to? Do you think you can still wield that chainsaw the same way you did before?
I don't know. You know, you're talking about your shirt shrinking and that thing. I'm not. My costume shrinks in the wardrobe, so I don't know. We'll see.
I know we can't do that orchestra appearance right now. I mean, that's without masks, you know. Even we'd have to be 2 feet apart.
I know. I posted some pictures when I've gone to the Houston Phil and noticed, of course, how they have to be spaced on the stage. And Roger, you have responded and asked about that. And also even in the theater where they've got about 3,000 seats, but they're only opening to about 200 people.
But they've been great, Houston, especially because they're one of the first orchestras in the country to open up and put concerts. So, I mean, salute to them. That's amazing.
Yep, we had a great time. Hey, listen, to kick this off, what do you got? What are you drinking over there, my friends?
Let's do a cheers. Hey, Nathan.
Hey, good to see you guys.
We're drinking. I don't know what you're drinking.
What are you having? Vodka?
This is a really strong H2O, but we're going to call it vodka. I have to work after this particular thing, so we're going to say this is a vodka.
It's
right?
nothing more dismal than the truth.
Yes, that's true.
This is a nice rosé.
Remind us to tell you a story about that saying. There's nothing more dismal than the truth.
Okay. Look like Jetmaster says hello there too to you guys. And cheers to you guys.
Cheers.
Also,
what do you drink? Wait, what are you drinking, Nathan? I didn't see that.
What a gin and tonic. So
nice choice. Always a winner. Gin and you can't go wrong with gin and tonic.
So you'll notice over there, you've got somebody seated next to you on your left there, Raj, and Jarrett over to your right. You have a couple of lovely ladies who you have met before. Yeah, right there. Tell me a little bit about them.
Well, way back, 4 years ago, right? Yeah. We did Shark Tank. We thought that, Shark Tank is all about finding new products and getting the sharks to invest. And, well, isn't that what doing the Las Vegas show is all about? Basically getting investors and making them go broke. That's what it's all about. So we said, let's go in Shark Tank and make those darn sharks go broke. So we did it. And we pitched a live act to them, to the producers. And we honestly knew they'd bite. I mean, come on. Because they had napkins and glasses, but they hadn't had a live show. And sure enough, I think within 3 days of sending the email, they responded back saying, yeah, sure. So we got to work on this new prop that we built for them, which was a water-filled piano aquarium built by the guys that put on the TV show Tanked, ATI. And we worked with them for about 9 months putting this together in the act, and we did the thing. It was a lot of fun.
Basically, it was Fire and Water, from Les Arnold's great-grandfather, right? Yes, that created that whole piece. So.
Oh, yes, we have to have this magic technical end to explain everything. What do I know?
Exactly. What do you know? But we decided to do it with a piano because that's our thing. So,
right.
So we created an aquarium piano.
But they were interested in the concept of doing a live show and presenting it for investment for the strip. And honestly, we didn't really think that anyone would really invest in a live show on Las Vegas Strip because that's just not really a smart investment, and they chose not to. But the act did go well, and we did indeed find a fan in Lori, especially, who really liked the act, and who to this day we're still in touch with in terms of just emails and further things. But it did land us a place on the Strip, actually, ironically. Yes. We had producers that saw the act, and I think within just a few months, we were downtown performing at the Plaza. So it worked, It was a lot of fun. The Sharks were great.
At the same time, one of the cool things about it is that we really, really got a crash course on how to present to a panel of investors a Las Vegas show, and the amount of work that went into that, and the advice from accountants. I mean, we reached out to everyone to really sew that up, because we had to, we gave a whole presentation out, and on Shark Tank, it's not like 8 minutes, it's an hour and sometimes over an hour that you're in front of the panel. And it's funny because as a performer, and I know you guys can relate to this, we don't have, our stage fright is kind of gone when we walk onto the stage. And I can just sympathize for all of those people, all of the other people who have never been on stage before, standing in front. And they call it the stand down, which is really funny, where you come out in front of all of the 5 investors and you sit there for 1 minute, or stand there for 1 minute and just stare. And of course, all we did was laugh.
You get so warm and fuzzy. Yes, we were trying to laugh. We were trying to make the Sharks smile. And the director specifically said, no emotion. This is just for like outtakes and stuff. And of course, we're like, well, yeah.
So did they use the B-roll of you guys laughing and having fun and being goofy, or did they try to play it up like it was the big dramatic?
No, it was the big dramatic.
It was a big dramatic thing. But I do have to say one story. So we have this water-filled tank. It's a water-filled piano. And of course, naturally, the way it works is we have a keyboard in the keyboard part of this piano where I play. Now, a keyboard...
Oh, so that's how it's done.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how it's done. A keyboard has electricity. And this prop was literally built like just prior to wheeling onto the studio floor. And so we hadn't had the chance to really kind of work with displacement. So literally, and I joke you not, the Sharks were coming in at 1 p.m. after lunch, and we were right around 12:30. And we were setting up a stage, and people were starting to get a little frazzled now because the Sharks were coming in at sharp at 1 o'clock. And they don't know what they're seeing, so they literally come in at 1 o'clock not knowing what they're going to see. So we had to be prepped and ready to go by like 12:55. No kidding. 12:50, the water displaces, overflows, and goes into my electric keyboard while it's plugged in.
And there are displaces because of the girl who got in the tank or into the water, you mean?
Not that a girl ever gets in the tank. I'm just saying.
Oh.
When the girl appeared.
No girl gets in a tank, Scott. Come on.
I'm sorry.
Yes. No, nothing of that hanky-panky happened. Anywho, just saying, yes, when a certain, it displaced into the keyboard, and we had to sweat and take the entire thing out, dry it off, turn it upside down 5 minutes before the Shark was coming in. I was sweating bullets. Now, same time, the producers take the us, the guys wanting investment, to take a tour of the studio so that afterwards we know where to go for the interviews. Well, I couldn't do that because I was dealing with my keyboard and the electronics water issue. Right. Literally, it was mopped up like at 12:59, and I never got the tour of the after thing. So when the thing was done,
when it was done, we were walking, and I would have to keep talking to Raja. Okay, stop here. Go to the left.
I think sure. Right, left.
Good thing there were two of you then.
Doors are going to open now.
It's ridiculous.
So stupid.
It was ridiculous.
But anyhow, we all had those moments, and that's what makes it all so alive,
so organic.
Yes.
Oh Lord.
Well, I would think that was one of the most brilliant moves to go on Shark Tank, because it's a way of trying to put butts in the seats. Now, was this after you had already worked at Hooters Casino, or was that before?
Just prior.
Just prior.
It's prior to that. So then you worked at the Plaza, then went to Hooters.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Right. But still, I think that was brilliant. So this way people knew who you were, and there hasn't been anybody before nor since who has gone in and tried to pitch like a Broadway show or a musical or anything like that. I mean, whose idea was that?
It was actually his idea.
Oh, Raja. Yeah, yes. You're amazing. You're amazing. What a
No. The nice thing about Shark Tank is it really gets re-aired. I think they have a deal with CNBC.
Oh, so you get residuals.
I was just
residuals. That would be nice. No, but the re-airings, I mean, it's honestly been like 20 times now. It's just like they keep on putting on the air.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice, So as we age, we keep on looking younger as people watch on TV.
I think I've definitely seen you guys in a hotel room after a show at least once or twice while ironing my clothes, and it's like, oh, it's the Jarrett and Raja Shark Tank. It's because they run them continuously. Yeah,
it is. It's I guess a blessing in disguise. So
well, certainly that was a very entertaining episode, as opposed to other people who are selling how to plant trees or some little bottle or can or whatever. That's just a great story about that. Harriet loved that also. She loved
Harriet.
Hi, Harriet. Mwah, good to see you. We'll see you in a few weeks.
And so let me ask you then for just a second, Nathan, about some of your experience working on Penn and Teller. I'm curious, is that something that has resonated for you, that they play over and over, and you're probably receiving the same kind of residuals, I guess?
Yeah. That is keeping me in wealth to the end of my days. Absolutely.
Of course.
But no, it was a great experience. I think we're really lucky to live in a time where we've got this awesome showcase for magic. I think the concept of the show is, which I hated. The first time I heard the log line, I was like, what idiots are they going to find to try and get on that show? Because it sounded terrible, and it sounded like something for a very needy performer to get on, and they're going to explain your trick and what is this? Right. And they just executed it perfectly. Yeah. And it's a showcase for magic where they've figured out a way to sort of have a reality TV show-ish hook, but there's not the risk of they're never getting entertainment value from like denigrating any of the acts that are going on or making anybody look silly. And what's so smart about you guys, I love the Shark Tank. I love your move to Shark Tank, because you decided, hey, everybody's going in the front door. Here's this door around the side that can get us what we need, and we're not having to line up next to everybody else, And that is
desperation,
so smart. Yeah. Fair enough. That is performers fuel, desperation. Absolutely.
Desperation breeds innovation.
When you were getting ready to go on Penn and Teller, I've heard several stories about some people who have submitted something and they said not ready yet, and you need to work on it, and it's not really a fooler, and then they'll come back later, rework it or whatever. Was yours pretty easy? They decide, yep, we're going to have you on right away?
It was a weird process. It was a weird process because I'm somebody who my material goes through, like, I'm sure everybody's, but goes through thousands of different iterations, and it's stuff that I've done year after year after year. And this was something that I created just for the show, which was terrifying. And when the clip that they saw to cast it was the first time I'd ever done it in front of an audience. because the window was just where it was, and the idea came together, and it worked out. I spent.
Can you explain basically what your trick was?
Yeah, so it's I've always been fascinated with impossible objects, right? Like the Harry Ing, deck of cards that's in a bottle, or this nut that's in a thing that can never fit in. But I always thought that's really cool.
Like that.
But I didn't like that. Exactly, Scott. That's awesome. I'm going to challenge you throughout this. I'm going to come up with esoteric objects that I'm telling stories about, with the expectation that you will have it right there to pick up. So absolutely, like that. I was. And it might not too. Yeah. I was fascinated with impossible objects, but I always thought like that's something that I don't want to just be something that sits on a shelf. Like, is that something that I can create through a piece of magic and then gift to a spectator? So that was something I was trying to do. So basically the premise was we had an empty jar. It got isolated in like little boxes that are on top of a pole way out of reach. Somebody decided on an object. And fortunately, through sheer luck, it happened to be a golf ball, which then appeared inside the jar that had been examined and all this other stuff. So, but it was one of those things where it was a little sentence in a notebook from 5 or 6 years prior, where I was thinking about, I'd always loved, I guess we got a lot of magicians, so I can talk a little bit. I'd always loved Robert Harbin's card in bottle, but I was like, that's too good to be a card trick.
Oh, and the cigar box thing?
Yeah. So it's like, it's a beautiful thing because you're convinced that the thing is empty. It's this isolated space, and then it's full, and that's awesome. And I'm like, it doesn't need to look like every other trick by starting with pick a card and then put this in. And so that notebook entry became that piece. And it was before knowing I was cast. It was just a matter of I wanted to be ready. So it's just every venue that I'd ever worked for that was local and convenient and I knew could do a high show count. I said, hey guys, here are the days where I've got some time. Can I just come in and do 8 shows for you guys today with just this piece? And I'm very fortunate. There's a venue, Great Magic Hall, that's open here in Orlando. That's very small, kind of under the radar, beautifully designed, incredible aesthetics here in Orlando. And he was like, yeah, absolutely. And so it was just a process of getting as much flight time as I could with that. And I figured, and at that point, I didn't know if I was booked on the show or not, but I figured either I'd have something good for the show or I'd have a cool piece for my stage show.
Right.
So,
Yeah. That's great.
Sure. That's a great way of doing that, because it's never a waste of time. When you put that much energy into creating something and, and it's completely original with what you're doing, it never is. Even if you put it on the shelf, you'll revisit it and bring it back and all. That's, that's the beauty of all this. It's like you dust off old pieces and you come back to it. It's like fine wine. And you come back to it, except you add something new to it, a new twist. And I love that. That's great.
And even if you don't get something from the material itself and you never use that material again, there's something about going through the process and there's something about asking the questions, and you never know what other thing you're working on down the road that you're like, oh yeah, that thing from this. So,
That's
great. Daniel Holtzman had a phrase that I love, which is stealing from yourself. And he was talking about it in the context of like when, as the Raspini brothers, they had a 6-minute TV spot. And so they would take jokes that were great for them from throughout their 60-minute stage show, and they'd find ways to work them in that 6-minute spot. But I've thought about that a lot, of like what stuff that you used to do, or what stuff that you've cast away, or what stuff that you've used in this trick, but now you're just doing this trick. But yeah, I agree with you. It's never wasted. The work never,
right.
You never lose it. Yeah.
And it's interesting what you're saying right there. We're actually working on something like that is right at the moment now, where we were talking about a bigger act that we were doing in Singapore years ago. And there's a thread of a story through the whole, through the piece, through the 20-minute piece. And we're like, well, maybe we can borrow some of the lines from here, which we know work, and we'll work with this shorter act for, maybe 3 minutes or whatever. But it doesn't work because, the story is not there. And you have to think in terms of the viewer and the audience and how they're following you, And so, but definitely, yes, stealing other aspects of that. You find yourself doing that because that's what you're comfortable with, because you knew that it worked, So.
Yeah.
I was talking about some of the spices of life and things. There was something I wanted to bring up then also, which you've been working on of late over here. Let me see if I can find this. Jarrett, here it is. Something that,
yes,
that you're working with, yes, there as well, which happens to be the balsamic vinegar. Or I say vinegar, it says salad dressing and also for dipping in bread and everything.
Yes.
And so it's Professor Parker's Gourmet. And so that says 50-year tradition. Is that your father or your grandfather's on the label there?
No, that's my dad. And
Okay.
I put that on there. It's something I worked on during the pandemic. I just, it was a great time to have the time to do something. I've been wanting to do this for, over 20 years. But it's a salad dressing that he created when I was a kid, and for as long as I remember, there was always homemade salad dressing in the house. And he would always make it every week, and we'd make it together. And so I've learned how to, what the recipe was and the whole thing. And then after he passed away, I carried it on and have always had salad dressing in the house. It's amazing how food, you can still talk to people through food. And so my dad said, why don't you bottle it?
Well, yeah. I mean, every time we'd go out or, go to people's house or friends' houses, we'd bring like a salad dressing, or Jarrett always brings a salad, and he's kind of known for his salads. And so and the response was so positive, and this is great. Wow, where can we get this? And finally, during the pandemic, like Jarrett said, we decided, okay, now's the time. Let's just what are we waiting for? Let's just do it,
But, it was a challenge because at the same time, everybody else is cooking and doing things. And so the hardest thing was trying to find a bottle, because all of a sudden, just like, toilet paper you couldn't get, all of a sudden you couldn't get bottles because people were canning and bottling.
Yeah.
And so I got, I think, like the last of like a shipment that I had. And then for months, I wasn't able to get bottles. So now we're back to, having the bottles and stuff. So we, Raja helped work on the labeling on it, everything with me. We named it, Professor Parker Gourmet. There's a coat of arms in the way back. There's a purple sort of design in the back, and that's the Parker coat of arms on that label. And but
it's funny, our experience in entertainment and putting on shows and everything that goes into putting on a show totally parlayed into preparing this, because it's all about the same stuff. And, you're used to producing something, right? And so we just use all our, experience and skills that we got from producing shows and use this. And it was a lot of fun, actually. It's very creative,
And the great thing I like about it is it's obviously all natural. There's no preservatives. It's made with pure olive oil, virgin olive oil, and there's not canola oil in it. And it's, it's got different types of vinegars in it. So it's got a very, it's a strong flavor. So it's great for bread dipping as well as salads.
I was going to ask you about bread dipping. Typically, I pour a little Evu, a little extra virgin olive oil, and then put some balsamic on there to dip. But you don't have to do this. It's all combined in one. So you just shake it up and pour it out and then dip the bread. So you don't add anything, right?
It's important, not at all. You just shake it up, but it's important to shake the so that you're mixing everything in there. Sometimes people just pour it and then the oil comes out, and that's not how you use that. So shaking is very important. There you go. And exactly. And so, it's and I've used it actually in cooking as well. It can be used as a marinade as well. So, and so now obviously what I'm doing is that we're reaching out to sort of smaller gourmet stores,
restaurants,
higher end ones, and it's great. We've been getting a lot of great feedback and interest in it. So, and this is still in its birthing stages, so it's something we're going to really push.
I know that a lot of people have their own brands of things. In fact, I wanted to point this out. Was another thing I got a while back that was Michael Finney had something from his Dry Heat has got his own hot sauce.
Oh,
That's
neat.
awesome.
That's great.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
That's great. I love the ear shooting out of the steam. That's awesome. Yeah.
So yeah, everybody seems like got a little bit of something. I've been thinking about having my own brand of olives, perhaps, but this bottle is enough already. The Illusion vodka, working on that. So, so I think we kind of pushed it up for our stuff over there.
That was a thing of art, Scott. I just want to say the way you got that in there was just beautiful. Just beautiful.
It was smooth.
And you didn't even have to ask for it, Nathan.
Beautiful. I loved it. I loved it.
So I wanted to also then kind of go over to Raja for just a moment about the acting, and that is the dancers that you also employ from time to time. I was talking with my friend Ariane Black today, who had said that she had worked with you out in New York at one time, and then we were talking about classical dancers versus modern dancers, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But do you want to tell a story about how you had met her and incorporated her in your act there, Jarrett or Raja?
It was me.
Okay.
Back then, this was a long time ago. Like a very long time ago.
Yeah, she said she was actually working at Tannen's, I guess, there as a demonstrator.
In New York, that's correct.
Right.
And it was during my New York days too. Then I was actually singing and doing magic. I was writing my own material, and I was playing a lot of the nightclubs, the dance clubs, and one of the clubs I was playing quite regularly was the Palladium in New York, which is a massive dance club. And what we would do is that there would be we'd basically do 2 spots in the evening of like 10 minutes, and it was great because I used my own music, and you know, the DJs there would work with me on how to implement that with the audience and the flow of the sound. So it's fun because Arian, it's funny because I don't quite remember exactly the moment that we met and how we met, but I do know that we were doing that show, and I was doing the microphone suspension with her. And I have a great picture of her and me doing that, that we played and stuff. And I had sort of forgotten about that. And when I came out here to Vegas many, many years later, she brought it up to me because we kind of lost touch for a while. And then when we came out here, she like brought it back up, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's right, I remember, so and so it's great because that brought us even closer together out here. So I love her, she's great.
She is. We were talking again just about, as I mentioned, classically trained versus modern dance training. And she was classically danced, which is different kind of things. I mean, yeah, certain people are certain sizes that fit in boxes. However, when it comes to actually movement, do you look for one over the other as far as classic versus modern, or is it making a difference? Or you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Obviously, it depends on what piece that we're doing. My mother was a modern dancer, and she actually was part of the whole underground movement of that when that was happening when she was younger. And so she went on to she studied under Martha Graham and in New York, and other teachers there and stuff and all. And so it's funny because when I was growing up and all, she helped choreograph the dancers in the shows that I was doing and all. And there were some pieces that were really, in her, the way she did was modern dance. And my mom was, the way she wrote all these pieces out was through lab notation. And lab notation is a very lost art, but it's writing. What do you say?
Can you show some of the dance moves, Scott?
What? So anyhow, but again, to answer your question, Scott,
10 minutes later.
Depends on the piece that we're using. Now out here we did a
This answer is still going on because I don't know, man. I'm ready to move on to the next topic. What do you say, Jarrett?
We did a very, very classical piece, and so we needed, ballet dancers.
What are you saying?
I'm saying that your music warrants ballet dancers.
I forgot the question. What was your question? Lord. I tell you, this one, when you get this one talking,
that's right.
He starts talking and goes off on a tangent like, woo, we're in the mood now. And I'm trying to keep pace.
Well, so you keep him kind of under control a little bit. Good.
Yes.
It depends on the piece, Scott.
I guess.
The digest version.
Yeah, the digest version. So I assume then, Nathan, that's not necessarily anything you've had to worry about as far as having backup dancers with your act.
No, although it's funny because I did go through a phase where I thought I wanted to do big illusions and stuff. And so bought a sub trunk and which, by the way, if anybody needs, I've still got 2 that are taking up space in the storage. And it took, I worked with a fantastic dancer. She was incredible. And then it took me a while to have the self-awareness to look at the video and I am not a dancer. And the contrast between us of this dude on stage who clearly didn't have the background and this person who is moving effortlessly. And now I think there's something we could have done with that as a comic dynamic. But it was just at the time, it was just this is not for you. Figure out your strength and go there. So, but Scott, I hear, is an accomplished dancer and will now treat us to.
I'm gonna dance my pants off. I've already done it before the show, so I've already danced my pants off.
Fair enough, sir.
It was actually Charlie Reynolds that told me, "Do not dance. Get to the point."
Get to the point.
But I will say, I feel like I can tell the difference, even if they're not. And I agree with you 1,000% on the, there are these weird superfluous dance numbers that we've all seen at illusion shows. But I think whether they're dancing or not, I feel like you can see the difference in how the performer moves of whether they've got that background or not. There's, even if it's not a dance piece, I've seen Drew Thomas here in Orlando is a great example of this. A guy who I think was a finalist on America's Got Talent in 2010, who grew up idolizing Michael Jackson and has some dance background. And I don't think he dances in his show, but just you see in the images that kind of his body makes, right? There's also a comfort with his body and a comfort with moving that you just, us non-dancers just don't.
Yeah.
Well, a question also, by the way, kind of changing subjects and directions over here that comes up from time to time is kind of what you guys are doing virtually as far as magic goes. I know different states right now, as we speak, everything's changing. I think it was yesterday that Texas just quite literally open from the standpoint that we have 100% capacity at restaurants and no masks. And I think Florida had done that a month or so ago. And from what I heard, they were only 32 out of 50 states as far as COVID virus cases. So it seems to be working, and Florida is doing well. Of course, it's still locally, if the restaurant says you have to wear a mask, then you do, but it's by restaurant choice. But the mandate is you don't have to if you're not required to. My point is that everything seems to be right now under change. And Las Vegas, I think, didn't that recently, guys, change so that you got 50% capacity now? Or?
That's correct. 50% capacity. And it's 6 feet apart with masks and 12 feet apart without. I think it is on stage
for the performer to the audience. Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's definitely opening up.
Shows are opening now,
which is fantastic. I mean, it's the entertainment industry here was really decimated over the year, and it was sad on so many different fronts. But now that it's opening up, people are working. And it's a good thing.
Yeah.
I know David Copperfield has got a show, of course, that's been going. Murray Sawchuk and Alon New and James Demare. I don't know anybody else necessarily who's out working. I don't think Mike Hammer's
been. I know there's a review show with Mondre and
and Doug Leprovich and all that's right. And that's up and running, which has been great. And also I think it's at Notoriety.
The Magic. The new Magic show.
Yeah, it's not open yet though.
Yeah, right.
Right. So
what about down in Orlando? What's happening as far as, I know Disney World's been open and all, but
yeah, it's so the Out of Control Comedy Magic Dinner Show, which is Tony Brent kind of quietly headlines as somebody who it's been the longest running internationally magic dinner show. 20 years of 7 nights a week, 2 shows a night, beginning in 2000. He's reopening this Saturday. So they're reopening with all the protocols and all that good stuff. And then then they're doing another test show on the 20th. So a week from then. But other than that, we don't have a lot of in-person shows that are like public tourist things. And we probably won't until the vaccination becomes wider, because we get, the thing to bear in mind is we had like 70 million visitors, pre-COVID, and they're coming from all over the world. And so we're not able to make it on just like the people who happen to be in Florida as well. So that's going to be a big piece of when we really reopen. I'm doing my first booked post-COVID in-person show in about a week. And it feels like, to your question about what the year's been like it feels like this constantly, it's been this great creative challenge, but it also feels like you build this thing and then you got to turn around and build this other thing. Because it's like, just as I feel like my virtual show, like I have the kind of pride in it that I have in my pre-COVID in-person show. It's like, oh, now I've got to adapt a show that's nobody on stage. And, they're in these little 6 foot. So I'm doing a thing for a university that's going to be outdoors with everybody in their little 6 foot pod, and 400 or 600 people spread, but with the protocols, that means spread across this huge space. And here I am as a one-man show without bringing guests on stage. So it's going to be interesting. So, I was just going to say real quickly, Scott, I think that the flip side of it is that I don't think I think I've made more stuff this year than I have in any other year. So I think it's been an incredibly creative year, because the challenges, you got to solve the problems that are thrown at you. So I've really enjoyed that.
When you're saying creating new things, you mean something that are products you sell, or something for your show, new routines?
Literally the virtual show, which has been my thing since.
I was just about to ask you about that. What's your virtual? Because it looks like you're all set up. You got the background, the table, lighting, and everything.
Yeah. So I started May 30th. It's been solid. It's been solid, but it really is its own venue. You really are writing a show that's just for this space, because there are limitations and there are advantages of coming to people in this way. And so it really is, there is nothing in my virtual show that was in my in-person show or ever had been in my in-person show. And so it's just kind of having to continually reinvent the wheel, because what you're creating, it's closest to a TV special maybe, but it's a TV special where you see the people, they see you bring them on screen, so there are all these other elements to it.
I would think one of the harder things to do would be to interact with your audience, even though they have their microphones unmuted, as far as laughter and applause, because when you're in a group, you get that group dynamic that you don't get, which in one setting. That's why, like on sitcoms, that they have laugh tracks and applause tracks, so that way that you kind of feel like, now I should be laughing,
There are ways of doing it, and you do. It sounds weird, and it felt weird at the beginning, but you do get. And I'm looking at a big screen of all their faces, so you do get the. And so I'm getting, it's visual is what I'm getting. And I'm getting, and I'm finding that more and more, every single piece has to have, for me, I do the picture-in-picture thing, the little CNN thing with the person in the screen with me. Yeah. And I found that that's even on like just OC the Pretty things, getting their face there is really powerful. And the thing to focus on is, what are the things that you can do in this medium that you can't do elsewhere, right? And like the distance is working for you. When you can do something that's really amazing and it happens in their space, and it isn't this like weird procedure-y, follow the leader kind of thing, it's really amazing, because they know you're 6,000 miles away, and you don't have to worry about adapting your show to new conditions. Like, you get the very same canvas to work with every single time. Everybody can see you, everybody can hear you, or nobody can see you and hear you, but just there's a different level of control and there's beautiful sleight of hand stuff that's really up close that I've never been able to do in my show. And as a guy who doesn't do walk around or doesn't do close up stuff, I've never really done. And I get to do it now. And that's awesome. So
that's great.
I would think also those are skills that you might be able to translate later once you get him back into doing live shows again, particularly doing cocktail strolling, because I know your main bread and butter, 80% or more of your shows are corporate types of shows where you're dealing with companies, which is why whenever we'd done our podcast episode, I call that executive decision, because that's what the executives have to do, is make the good decision to hire you to do their shows as well. And that's kind of your main bread and butter. My point being is, after you have learned some of these newfound skills, you will be able to, I'm sure, carry this on to have something else that you can add as additional stream of revenue then as well. Well, what about promoting? Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I was just going to say, I don't think these are like, there are absolutely, you're right. There are lessons from this that people who do it can take and do in other venues. I don't know that this is going to completely go away as a venue. Like, I think I will have a stand-up show, a stage show, and an online show. And I think that's just going to be, the way it is, because there are people who want to connect groups of people without flying them all together, without, that, and create a really amazing experience online. And being able to do that is a valuable thing. So
I agree 100%. This is going to be something that is going to be here to stay. A lot of people saying, "Oh, it's a flash in the pan," and I think those are naysayers who probably years ago said, "Oh, this internet thing is not going to last. It's a fad." So I think this is something that will last. Certainly, it's not going to take the place of live entertainment. I do believe this will be a supplement to that, and there will be companies, just as you said, Nathan, who don't want to fly in their company executives, their salesmen, and from all over the country or all over the world, because they're starting to realize here this year, hey, we can save some money, still have the same level of output and profitability by not bringing them here, but doing this virtually. But also during the day, not only are they having the meetings and everything, but also in the evening still need to have some sort of way of letting their hair down and getting to know each other socially and having some fun and bringing in an entertainer. Now, when you do that, do you do this as an entertainer, or you act sometimes as an MC or a host between segments whenever they are having a conference or something, or maybe as a facilitator?
It's overwhelmingly been as a show. So it's overwhelmingly been as a 35-minute experience. There is stuff that I do that's like, hey, you guys are having your meeting. Let me jump in and do 10 minutes and just raise the energy level and all that stuff. So I do some of that. I haven't done a lot of hosting, but I have a ton of friends who that's been a huge opportunity for them. And hosting online. Yeah,
a friend of mine, Jamie Salinas, was just telling me that he was doing a show recently in which they didn't sell very many tickets, but he had sent out emails to, he's got like 3,000 people, some customers on his email list, and only a few had actually purchased tickets. I mean, very few, like maybe a couple of dozen it wasn't just his show, it was him and somebody else. But the point was, there were 3 people out of those 3,000 who said, hey, since you're doing virtual shows, we've got a company thing. So he booked 3 big shows as a result of that. So you never know where this is going to lead when you're trying to market that, certainly. I had just written an article that's going to be appearing in the Magic Circular sometime soon that has to do with this very subject, and me taking the stance that I think that virtual magic is good for magic. I think there were 2 of us, one taking the opposing viewpoint that this is not good, and I'm saying it is for some of the reasons we just discussed here. So anyhow, that's going to be coming up soon. What about you guys, Jarrett, Raja?
Well, it's funny because with us, what we decided to do is basically I jumped into Raja's world, and we said, well, we need to figure out what can we do virtually and get out there and work with other musicians. So we worked with musicians,
not magicians, right?
Musicians, that's right. Because that's what we're about, music and magic. And exactly. So we did a project that actually the Met in New York had us do, which was really, really cool. And we worked with a wonderful group by the name of Ethel. Actually, one of the main members of it is Raja's best friend from Juilliard.
Right.
And so they basically wanted a 20-minute piece with magic and music. They do a series called The Balcony Bar at the Met, which Raja in the years prior has done live. They fly him in and he appears there and does a concert. So basically, obviously they can't do that live, so they went virtual and said, okay, how can we do this with magic? This is something different. Usually we'll just have some musicians come in and we'll shoot them and do that. So we said, okay, let's work on something. So we put together a piece, and we had some really great people working on it, which Raja will tell you in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But the gist of it was that it was okay. It was highlighting Raja playing, and then there were moments where I was doing magic. But it was done in our home here because we couldn't leave the home during the pandemic.
So the piece is a 20-minute piece, and it was, like Jarrett said, shot in our house, and we basically had probably 5 or 6 segments that comprised 20 minutes. It started with me playing a 6-minute Schubert impromptu, and then going into a little bit of close-up magic, and going into another small piano piece. And in between each segment, there was a sort of a thread of us at home. So when I finished playing my piano piece at the beginning, we shot a scene of me actually coming out of my studio, going downstairs, and then seeing, oh, Jarrett, you're doing some magic. So, you know what I'm saying? It was kind of a tour of the house in a way, and what goes on in Jarrett and Raja's house.
They get to know you better as well. They feel like a personal connection. That's a great idea.
Yeah. And it culminated in a really nice thing that Jarrett created, really great. It was about masks, and it was the masks that everyone was wearing. And we produced this in June, so it was really mid-pandemic, and everyone was wearing these masks. And Jarrett created this really wonderful magic routine with masks. And
yeah, because I wanted to do, basically, I said I want to do something with these masks. These are very topical. It's going to be something that we will be in all of our lifetimes. We'll never forget this. Right. So this was, I wanted to create the relationship between the mask and a magician, and what that is. And it's about the mask coming alive, and the relationship that I have to it, and how at the end of the day the mask is there to protect me. So anyway, we put this together with the Ethel, the group,
with the string quartet.
Yeah.
And it was interesting how we did it. We did it completely, bi-coastal. Ethel, they're in New York. The whole production team was in New York, and we were here. And musically, we would record our tracks to click. I recorded all my stuff on my piano here. The violinist would do his stuff, etc. And then we had one person, the violinist actually, who put this all together in Pro Tools and created the track with the 5 players, the 4 string players and the 1 pianist, me, and then laid it on top of the video, which was really, really wonderful to see how this all came together remotely. And we have this 1 20-minute piece, which was presented by the Met Museum. And when they did present it, it was very cool because the Met Museum had truly international following. And when it did go live on their Facebook page, I mean, it was tens of thousands of people commenting from England, Australia, Japan, and it was really a neat experience. So we're doing another thing like that now next month with a presenter in the Bay Area. So we're now working on, that's what Jarrett's talking about, now working on that piece. And again, thinking of something new and different. Like Nathan was saying, it's not like we can pull out a sub-trunk. It's not good enough. Nathan has 2 that needs to be sold. But right,
I've got one too. I should probably sell. It was made by George Chalet Magic. My wife told me years ago we should sell it. We stopped. I think we've all 3 of us got a sub trunk for sale. It sounds like.
We do.
Exactly.
We just got ours back. It was stuck on the ship for a year.
But we're having a lot of fun doing that. It's he creates the magic, and it's really great for me because when we do live shows or TV, the music, let's face it always gets dumbed down, and it's really not what I do. It's usually a track that the TV network wants to put up, and it's just not me. This is great because I can play Rachmaninoff, I can play Brahms, I can play Stravinsky, I can play whatever I want, and do a good job that I feel good about, and that sits well with the magic actually, and fits the story, and is more true to who we are. So we're doing that now, and I'm practicing Mad Lee Way. He's creating Mad Lee Way, and we're doing our thing. So it's cool. These are fun little pieces.
They are fun, and actually, like during the pandemic, it was just Raja and me, and as I mentioned, Doug Leffervich earlier. It was just him. He shot. We used four iPhones, and it was just him. We created this whole piece that way. And
truly, the new phones, a game changer, because you can shoot in 4K.
You're talking about with the new iPhones?
Yeah, I mean it's fantastic because 4K, 60 frames per second, and that's high resolution, and you can do that now, and it's broadcast quality. So that technology is fantastic. It's a great time to have a pandemic with all the technology.
I went to South by Southwest a few years ago. I was part of a presentation. They were talking about AR and VR and using magic techniques and theory to anyhow. While I was there, they were talking about 8K technology. And this was 3 years ago. And at the time, this was early in the year, but the Chinese were saying they were going to be launching this 8K, the satellite that would have an 8K transmission. And the thing was about the size of your forearm, I guess, basically. That would be up there, that would be transmitting. But they were showing what that looks like, and it's about as close to 3D as you can imagine. 4K is amazing, but 8K is not just double. It's exponential to 4. It's like 16K or something. I don't know. It's
and at a certain point, it's more than the human eye, and then it's like,
yeah.
Wait, look, now I'm high. What? I can see all these things that I could not see before.
Right.
How much could you actually see?
Right. We're all tripping because this is not real.
Well, in that regard, actually, right now I am listening to the Audible book of Real Player 2. Ready Player 2. You might remember Ready Player One, which was a Steven Spielberg movie based upon the book, which is really good. Well, the Audible book was read by Will Wheaton from Next Generation, Star Trek. And so I'm listening then right now to the Audible book of Real Player 2, which is really an awesome read. But they talk about what it is that, well, I don't know how I actually got off on that subject about what the future is going to be like, where you would be wearing these this headset basically, where you would actually feel it. You wouldn't have the haptic gloves and the goggles and everything, or something that would just go around your head. It would tap into your brain neurons and everything. Just another science fiction thing over there. Hey, I noticed, that we had Phil Mann, who is late. Yep, you're late to the party over here. I have to go back and listen to this a little bit later. Timothy Smallwood. Yes, the guy. Good to see you, Timothy. He always plays a great Bill Clinton. Love that guy.
Timothy was up very early this morning. he was going to the airport.
And Jeffrey is beautiful. I've not seen that, so I have to take a look at that and see what that's going to look like. Well, what are the next as we start to kind of wrap up over here? What are some plans? What are you guys planning to do from here through the rest of this? I suspect it looks like within the next 6 months we're going to slowly kind of roll back to some sort of normalcy. Who wants to go first?
No, I was just going to say, for us, we do have a few TV projects that we're working on this month, and of course later on in the year. And of course, we're going to continue this the video production thing that we've been talking to you about. It's a platform, like Nathan was saying, that I think is here to stay, and it's a great platform. And what Jarrett was saying was, you can kind of be more true to yourself, producing these video bits that you can put out and really have fun with. And So we'll be continuing to do that. I've got a bunch of concerts coming up and recording in January that I'll be doing with my great producer Erica Brenner. So it's proving to be an extremely busy year, and of course for me on the teaching end, it's just astronomically crazy.
And of course, to finance all of this, don't forget.
Oh yes, to finance all this. Oh yes, the big bankroll, the salad dressing.
That's right. That'll do it right there.
There you go. That's it.
And let me see where they're going to be able to get that. It seems like it was, let me see, right over there.
Yeah.
ProfessorParkerGourmet.com.
That's right. Yeah.
Just so we have it all together. All right. So tell me also what's up with you then, Nathan. What's going on and with your plans?
It's a good time creatively. We're continuing to do the streaming shows, the interactive shows, the remote shows, whatever you want to call
How do they get hold of you to do that if somebody wants to book you?
NathanCoeMarsh.com, Nathan@ncmarsh.com, all the fun socials, all that good stuff. And so it's and then I've also got the show that is coming to will be for the first time March 20th premiering is the Contact Free show. So that's been a nice creative challenge, is getting that up, and it looks like there'll be some dates coming in for that, but mainly on the corporate market and getting a feel for waiting for this meeting business to really come back. And I think it will in a big way. I think people are ready to get out. I think they're ready to connect. I think they're ready to be in the same room with each other. And I think we're all looking forward to an incredible year. So,
yep, get back on the road again. That's one of the things I certainly miss is this personal contact of being able to shake hands and hug you guys and get back together the way we once did. So I really miss that. This is the next best thing we can kind of do, at least virtually and from a distance. So I want to thank each of you guys and toast you again. Cheers for being here. Nathan Coe Marsh, it's been wonderful. Cheers. Jarrett and Raja, thank you guys very much. I don't know what you got planned, but I have been watching and getting caught up on Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. I'd seen it all before when they first came out. I'd read the books when I was in high school, loved it, but I'm watching it again. And there's a certain way you can actually watch it. You watch Lord of the Rings, first one, and then you watch the trilogy of The Hobbit, and then you pick up on 2 and 3 of the Lord of the Rings. If you're thinking about doing that, it'd be a good weekend. I mean, it's only about 3 or 4 hours per movie.
I know. That sounds great. I'm back on Jurassic Park, so that's my favorite.
Oh, that's a great one. Yeah, Jurassic World and all that. So cheers, you guys. Thanks again.
Cheers.
Thank you, Scott. I think entertainment is going to really explode after this pandemic is over. I think people have been so cooped up and they're just dying for entertainment. And I really think it's going to be, in my opinion, it'll be a good thing for all of us. We're anxious to get out there, and I think audiences are anxious to get out there. So it's going to be... let's toast to that, to a brilliant future for entertainment. That's live entertainment.
Here.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. We're all ready for that. So the sooner the better. And so until next week, we're going to be having some more interesting guests and a lot of friends of yours from Florida. We're going to be bringing 3 people from the Sunshine State. So all 3 of my guests next week will be in Florida. And this will tell you a little bit about it as we kind of sing our way out of here. Or we can kind of dance our way out of here. So here we go. Little seat dance. This is Scotty out.